My name is John Milosky. I'm sitting here in my lounge. It's actually a gentleman's club, waiting for my friend, Private Investigator BH. I asked him to come incognito. I didn't want anyone to recognize him. He was of average height and weight, bald, by choice to make it easier to disguise himself. In fact, he came up to my table and asked me to buy him a drink. At first, I wanted to say something unflattering to him, until I realized that it was Joe, my BH friend. We didn't have many visitors this evening, but it was still early. Our dancers were some of the best in the area. Not only did they look good, but they could actually dance. Before I got married, I often had affairs with some of them. Of course, I missed those times, but I promised my wife that I would only have sex with her. So why am I here today incognito? Apparently, you don't want anyone to know who I am, Joe asked. That's what I like about you, Joe. You always think. You're right, actually. There is a man in the 12th booth from the left side. Don't look now, but I need to know more about him soon. I'll go to the toilet and take a photo of it on my phone. Will you tell me the problem, or will I have to figure it out myself? Asked Joe. I laughed. He joined the club about a month ago. In the questionnaire, he indicated that he works in private security. The problem is that I think he's following me. In fact, I'm sure of it. I could just go and ask him or beat him to a pulp, but I think he's working for someone. I want to know who. Joe returned from the toilet a short time later and said he would keep me posted. He will do this mostly over the phone unless the matter gets very personal. I told him not to let this guy know he was being followed. I also told Joe that he registered as Kent McCarthy. While I was sitting in the club, Bob Arndt sat down at my table. He was my lawyer whom I had known for many years. He asked me, who was the man who just left? I told him it was a new member who just wanted to meet me. I wasn't going to tell anyone about Joe until I knew what was going on. Even to your close friends. It was funny because Bob met Joe no less than 6 times. Joe didn't usually wear a disguise. I should tell you a little about myself and why I may seem paranoid. My family, the Milosky clan, goes back to the days of illegal business. My grandfather looked like a mafia leader. I hate that word, mafia, but it's something that readers understand or can relate to. Grandpa Milosky didn't think twice about killing the man he thought might be following him. He managed his affairs with an iron fist. He made Tony Soprano look like a Boy Scout. He really made money, and a lot of it. He led an active lifestyle and died of liver disease. My father became the Don, or leader of the family. He continued the business, but began to legalize most of them. Authorities tried but failed to catch him on a number of charges, including tax evasion. When I graduated from college, he told me that he wanted me to take the straight path. We sold illegal businesses and kept only legal ones. My father is now retired, and he and my mother live abroad. I keep in touch with them, and my father says he lives life to the fullest. I visit them several times a year. Only a few people from my close circle know where my parents live. These are more precautions than anything else. There are families from my grandfather's time who still want revenge on my father. I seem to be pretty safe here at the middle level. I own this club, bakery, and packing plant. We pack everything for small businesses and large corporations. We pay well and provide health insurance to all of our employees. I am 49 years old and have been married 3 times. I have 2 sons from my first marriage and a daughter from my second. My sons are both vice presidents at a packing plant. I have an uncle who is the president of the company, and I trust him completely. He is my mother's brother. I am a chief executive officer, but this is just to get paid or make final decisions in case of a dispute. Marilyn, first wife, and I had a difficult divorce. She said she would tell everyone about my family, and I would pay dearly. I wasn't sure what to do. If she died unexpectedly, I would be suspicious. Besides, I would be left with 2 boys to raise without a mother. One day, my father went and talked to Marilyn. Soon after, she agreed to a divorce. My father told me later that he offered her $1 million to give me a divorce so she could go her own way. He never told her the alternative, but I'm sure she knew what it was. She moved about 40 miles away from us. I gave her $1,000 a month in child support and saw the boys almost every weekend. Marilyn remarried a doctor a couple of years after the divorce. We hardly ever spoke unless it was about boys. My second wife runs the bakery, and of course my daughter helps her. This is what my wife wanted in our divorce agreement. We own the bakery equally, but I don't get too involved unless there's a problem. Irene and I weren't married long. She knew about my lifestyle and knew that I was cheating with women in the club and others. One day she asked for a divorce. She said that she thought she could turn a blind eye to my infidelity, but it was too much for her. I really cared about her. Hell, I think I loved her, and she really didn't do anything wrong. When she said all she wanted out of the divorce was the bakery, I agreed. We get along better now than when we were married. I paid for college for all three of my children and made sure they were well off. I may not be the kind of person that most people like, but at least they show me respect, at least to my face. Oh, I forgot to mention that I also have an import and export business. It's run by my cousin Greg, but I own the business. Greg does a great job and I trust him. We source products for everyone from large corporations to small businesses and even individuals. We are being watched quite a bit, and I told Greg to keep the goods level. Every invoice has his name on it, not mine, in case something goes wrong. Now about how I met my third wife, Zoe. We've been married for a little over 6 months. She came and applied for a job as a dancer. Damn it, I couldn't take my eyes off her. She looked so sexy. She was from Kuwait. She came here to study at college. With a degree in art, she could play instruments, dance, and even sing, and was looking for work. Her visa was valid for a year, but she wanted to stay in America. My friend Bob could hardly take his eyes off her. He once told me that it was a pity that he was married because he wouldn't mind being with Zoe. We hired her, and she was an exotic dancer. I have to say she was good for business. The only thing I noticed was that she flirted with clients, but didn't go to the top where the big money could be made. We have never forced our girls to have sex or give lap dances for clients. Some chose this because they knew they could earn really big tips. Some of our girls were making over $1,000 a week. The club received 20% of the tips. The clients were never told about this. We led the most private and a safe gentlemen's club in the area. Our girls were safe, and our clients' privacy was a top priority. Not surprisingly, we had doctors, lawyers, and businessmen as club members. I think every politician in town was a member. Getting back to Zoe, when she wasn't on stage, she was sitting at my table. She had olive skin and a very exotic or mysterious look. She was on the thin side, but still had a great figure. She surprised everyone when she danced like a belly dancer. I often talked to her about her past. Her parents were killed during conflicts in the Middle East. She had several brothers and other relatives who still lived in Kuwait. I have to say she was special. I've had sex with most of my girlfriends. I never forced them and always paid them. Zoe was different. As far as I knew, she never slept with anyone at the club. I could tell that many would be willing to pay her to get into her bed, but she was not interested in such matters. I made fun of her, suggesting that she might like women, and she told me that she had been with a couple of women in college, but it was just for fun. She said she liked older men. They know what they want, always treat her with more respect, and last much longer. One day she was sitting at my table and told me that she would make love to me if I asked. She did not want to be treated like a woman of easy virtue, but she wanted to be loved and caressed. I have to admit I was a little surprised. This beautiful woman was half my age, but I knew that she needed more than just passion. She wanted a lover or boyfriend. I told her I wasn't sure if I was ready to be with one woman. I had to laugh when she said, "That's because you've never been with me." I had a penthouse apartment and took it home that night. I have to say she was right. After that first night together, I wanted her at least 3 times a week. I didn't want any other woman. Damn it, Zoe was all I could handle. I bragged about it to a few close friends. I knew it made them jealous, especially Bob. His wife was a little plump and bossy when it came to sex. He paid to be with some girls at the club. He said it was much better than anything he got at home. I asked him why he didn't divorce Flo, and he told me that he didn't have a prenup, and she would have him robbed. He said that if he could meet someone like Zoe, it would be worth it. Although Zoe danced at the club, rumors were circulating that she was my woman, and it was better not to seduce her. After about 4 months, she asked me if I would marry her. Her visa is about to expire, and she won't be able to renew it again unless she goes home for a while and comes back. Of course, she told me that she loved me and would be a good wife. This is where I had a little problem. I loved sex with this woman and knew I would miss her dearly. I think it was a kind of love. I talked to the accountant and Bob, my lawyer. We decided to draw up a marriage contract. I left all the questions to Bob. Zoe was in seventh heaven. She said she would be able to stay in the US and would be able to study as a citizen. I realized that this was the main reason why she wanted to get married. She agreed to the prenuptial agreement, but asked me if I would remain faithful to her after we got married. I told her that I was willing to settle down with one woman as long as she was honest with me. If at any time she wants to divorce, I will let her go. She just shouldn't cheat on me, otherwise she'll leave with nothing. Life has been wonderful for me. Over time, Zoe stopped dancing in the club. I was tired of all the other men seeing my wife shaking her ass half naked. It's amazing how I didn't care until we got married. She began taking classes to become a citizen and also joined the city orchestra. She played several stringed instruments, including the violin. We talked a couple of times a day, but I visited my businesses regularly and didn't always come home early. She had no problem keeping herself busy. She even joined a fitness club. I was also a member, but rarely went there. We made love regularly. She never said no and didn't disappoint me. I took her to several plays and other events happening in the city. I knew that most guys were jealous of me, and I have to admit, it made me happy. About a month ago, Zoe became a US citizen. We threw a party for her at the club. It was the first time she danced with so many of my friends. It almost made me jealous. Until we got home and she made up for it with sex. Joe called me and said he needed to see me. This Kent McCarthy was indeed a private detective. He's been following him, tailing me for the past 2 days. As soon as I came home, he left. I left the club through the back door. Kent was still inside. Joe met me and we left in his car. John, I don't know who he works for, but we need to install some bugs. He knows when you are home or leaving. I think he has bugs installed somewhere. Is your wife at home now? No, she has a rehearsal now, and then she will go to a fitness class. Let's go to your apartment and see if there are any bugs there. We'll have to be quiet while we look for them. You will also need to check your mobile phone and car. How was this guy able to bug me? It does not make sense. He may not have been able to, but we must be sure. He will somehow know where you are. We went to my apartment and Joe got out his bug detector. We searched the entire apartment and he found a bug on the phone in my office and on the phone in the kitchen. It bothered me that he was able to install them. Joe said it was better to leave them so as not to make it clear that we knew. Joe installed his bugs, alone in my office, one in my bedroom and one in the kitchen next to the phone. John, these bugs are much more powerful than telephone ones. We will know if anyone enters or leaves this apartment. They pick up any sound above a whisper in the room where they are installed. Joe, I don't want anyone to know my personal affairs and what I do in the bedroom. Joe laughed. John, these are voice-activated recorders. They can record audio for up to 6 hours. You'll be the only one to hear them unless you want me to listen to something. The recorder itself will be in the closet in your office. Just change the discs every day when you see that they are full. We returned to the club. When I arrived, I noticed that Kent had left. Joe and I walked out to my car, and he used the bug detector again, finding a bug under the right tire. He said it's the type that connects to GPS. It will allow them to know where my car is at any given time. Joe checked my cell phone and said it was clean. It started to bother me that someone wanted to know where I was all the time. I began to wonder if Zoe had something to do with this, since bugs were installed in my apartment. No one else knew the codes to enter our apartment. Damn, I knew it was too good to be true. Now I needed to keep an eye on Zoe. When she returned home, everything seemed normal. She took a quick shower, and we had passionate sex as always. She was even more vocal than usual. After we finished, I fell asleep. The morning after she left, I laughed, knowing that our lovemaking session was recorded on tape. I never thought about it while we were having sex. Over the next few days, I checked notes at home. Apart from our usual conversations and sex, nothing unusual happened. Joe and I met, and he told me that he had been following Kent and knew all the places I had been. I started to get angry and decided to grab this Kent and put an end to this nonsense. John, I found information that will not make you happy. Kent served in the army and was stationed in Kuwait. It might just be a coincidence, or he might know Zoe. Bitch, why doesn't she just leave me? She already has citizenship. Firstly, we don't know if they know each other, and secondly, we need to find out why the bugs are being installed. John, can you go away on business for a couple of days? I want to see if he will follow you or stay here. This might tell us something. Of course, Greg has an important business that I wanted to look at. They want to cooperate with us. I'll leave on Thursday and return on Saturday. Do you think this will show anything? I don't know, but I hope this will get the cockroaches out of the wall. Make sure you call Greg from your home phone. We want those who do this to know that you will not be there. Also, make sure you replace the discs in our bugs. I did as Joe suggested. I even asked Zoe if she wanted to go, but she said she had a concert on Friday night. I told her I'd be back on Saturday and expected we'd have sex when I got back. She smiled and said, "I'll be waiting for you." Damn it, I hope she wasn't involved, but there were too many questions. I used the office phone and told Greg I would pick him up. I called my secretary, who told me I had a reservation at the Holiday Inn. I knew Susan most of my life and trusted her. I walked into the club and told Bob that I would be gone for a couple of days. I also informed the club manager. I told them that they could always contact me on my cell phone. I was finishing my drink when Bob asked to use my phone. He said he left it in the car. I gave him the phone number, and he walked away to make a personal call. He was gone for a few minutes, and when I looked around, he was returning. I also noticed that Kent didn't seem to be following me around the club today. This seemed strange to me. Bob gave me the phone back, and I went to pick up Greg. It was nice to spend time with a longtime friend, albeit a cousin. I let Greg drive my Lexus since I didn't like driving. I decided to call Joe and let him know I was on my way. I couldn't find the damn phone. Damn it, where is he? What is the problem? Greg asked. I can't find the damn phone. The last time I used it was in your office when I left a message for Zoe. Damn it, I think I left it on your desk. Don't worry. My secretary will find it and put it in a drawer until we return. I'll stop at the pharmacy and you can buy one of the cheap phones to use until we get back. That's what we did. I called Joe and told him we were leaving. I also called Zoe, leaving her a message with my new phone number. Finally, I called the club and left the number with Brad. He said that if anyone needed to contact me, they should use this number. We spent Thursday evening in New York at a lounge and dinner. Greg found a couple of women to chat with. I thought maybe I could find my own adventure too. We were far from home and no one knew us. While we were buying the ladies' drinks, my new phone rang. It was Joe. John, just letting you know that I've been keeping an eye on Kent. He was at the fitness club and came out with Zoe. Damn it, where did they go? He walked her to the apartment but did not enter. They stood outside and talked for several minutes. I was close enough to hear him say he would see her on Friday. This may seem strange, but he said that he needed to go to New York. Isn't that where you are? Yes, I will keep an eye on him. Maybe he's trying to find out if I'm cheating on Zoe or something. I can't believe she hired someone to spy on me. John, do you want me to keep an eye on him or stay here and keep an eye on Zoe? Something is wrong here. Keep an eye on Zoe. Is there something wrong? call if anything seems strange. In the meantime, I'll be keeping an eye on that bastard Kent. He's already got me. Greg and I took the ladies out to dinner, and I told him to take the women to his room, and I would see him later. He left with the women, and I sat in a booth just watching people. I thought I saw a man who looked out of place. He wore a hat and a beard. I thought it might be Kent, but I wasn't sure. My phone rang, and it was Joe. "Yes, Joe, what's going on? You said to call if anything unusual happens. I saw Bob, your lawyer, enter your apartment building. They let him in. Do you know if he knows anyone other than you in this building? Someone he could visit?" "No, and he knows that I'm not there. He must have wanted to see Zoe for some reason. I'll call her and ask her what she says. You stay there and let me know how long he stays." "Okay, but if you want me to go there, just say the word." "Thanks, Joe, but Bob would never hurt Zoe." Then I thought about how much Bob cared for Zoe. Is she really cheating on me with him? When I called the apartment, the answering machine answered. I just left a message for Zoe saying I miss her. I ordered another drink, and while I was drinking it, Joe called. "John, Bob has left. He stayed for about an hour. Is there anything else you need to do?" "No, I called there and left a message for Zoe. My cheap phone has a call waiting. It's probably Zoe now. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Joe." I disconnected from Joe and took the second call. It was Zoe. "Sorry I missed your call, John. I was in the shower and heard the phone ringing. I thought it was probably you and decided to call back when I got out. In fact, I'm standing here naked, talking to you." I knew that some of what she said was a lie. I'll find out what happened when I check our bugs on Saturday. I still told her that I missed her and didn't forget about our sex on Saturday. "You mean our love, right, dear?" Zoe asked. "That's right. I'm going to make love to your beautiful ass," I replied. After I hung up, I was a little angry. Why is this bastard following me? Why did he follow Zoe home? How long had he known her? What did he mean when he said he would see her on Friday? What was Bob doing in my apartment? Joe was right. All it took was for me to leave, and the cockroaches would come out. I've had enough of this Kent guy. I went to the garage and removed his GPS bug and put it on another car leaving for another city. Now let him follow someone else. I finally said screw it and went to Greg's room to join him and the ladies. A little later, I took one woman to my room and had sex with her. You must understand that I have always led a different life. There were very few people I ever trusted. I had a lot of people I considered friends, but that didn't mean I trusted them. Joe and I have known each other since school. I always had his back, and he had mine. We even joined the army together and remained friends. If there was anyone I trusted more than anyone, it was Joe. When I woke up on Friday morning, I called him. I asked him to wait until Zoe left the apartment and pick up the bugs from the phones. Then I asked him to listen to our recordings, and I needed to know if there was anything important. Basically, I wanted to know why Bob was there. I also told him to leave our bugs so I would know if anything else happened before I returned the next day. "What's going on, John? Do you think you have enough information?" Joe asked. "No, that's why I want to keep our bugs. I took the bug off the Lexus and put it on the car heading to Virginia. If this Kent guy follows me, he'll be several states away before he realizes it." It really made me smile. "I also want you to go to Greg's business and pick up my cell phone. Bob used it before I left for New York. I want to know who he called. I'll call you later today, and you can tell me what you find out. I have a suspicion that the news will not be good." "Okay, John, whatever you say. Do you want me to follow Zoe later today?" "No, she has a concert tonight, and I don't think you'll want to go to it. You can come back late in the evening and see if she has any visitors." "It will be done, John. I'm sure we can sort this mess out," Joe replied. Greg and I went to meet with the owners of an import and export business. I haven't seen any signs of surveillance, so I think Kent is on his way to Virginia now. Our meeting went well. Greg completed the paperwork to work with this company. This will be a joint venture on new products. It was late on a Friday afternoon when Greg suggested visiting a gentleman's club. This seemed like a good idea. I like to know how competition works. This particular club was pretty decent. The girls were not as chic as in my club and immediately offered sex. We told them maybe later. For now, we just wanted to watch the dancers and have a couple of drinks. Not long after, Greg started buying one of the girls' drinks and put his hand on hers. I guess my cousin doesn't go out very often. I put a couple of folded $100 bills in his hand and told him to have fun. I had other thoughts. I went out for a few minutes and called Joe. "Is there anything for me, Joe?" I asked. He didn't sound very happy. "Sorry, John, I have news, but it's not good. I took the bugs out of my phones, but on our bugs I heard a conversation between Zoe and Kent. He told her he thought you found the GPS bug and that it was in Virginia. He plans to visit her later in the evening." "What else, Joe? What did he say?" "He told her he loved her and she loved him back. She said she couldn't wait to see him tonight. He also said that he couldn't find anything on you that would help in the divorce and asked her to just leave you and be with him. She said something like, 'Not without money.' I have no idea what she's talking about." "Me too. I had a prenuptial agreement, but I didn't promise her anything that I know of. Bob drafted it and I just signed it. Looks like I'll have to talk to Bob soon." "Have you listened to all our recordings?" "No, only the one that was next to the telephone in the kitchen. I'll listen to the rest now, but I need to leave your apartment before Zoe comes back. I went there when I saw that she had gone to the gym. Call me if you hear anything else on our recordings. I need to know why Bob was at my house." "It will be done, John. Take care. See you tomorrow." I went back to the club and said to myself, screw it, and took the cutest dancer for a lap dance. Later, Greg and I went to dinner. I tried to call home, but no one answered. I thought that the concert should have ended several hours ago. We stopped at the lounge and had a few more drinks, then I went to bed. I'll solve the problem in the morning. I got up and took a shower. I called home and Zoe said she got back late. She received my message, but thought it was too late to call back. I realized that I had woken her up. I just told her that I would be back in the evening. She didn't say anything like, "I love you," or "I can't wait to see you." I could tell from her tone that something had changed. I hung up and called Joe, leaving a voicemail asking him to call back. I told him I was going to have breakfast. A little over an hour later, Joe called me. "I'm sorry I didn't call back right away, but I have bad news and I wanted you to at least enjoy your breakfast," Joe said. "I listened to the tapes and it's not good news. Zoe is cheating on you." "Okay, we assumed it. Tell me briefly and I'll listen to the recordings later." This Kent guy seemed to be an old friend, judging by their conversations. I think they were old lovers. When he returned from Virginia, he went up to the apartment. He spent the night there and left a few minutes ago. "That bastard will pay for sleeping with my wife." "What about Bob? Why was he there on a different day?" I asked. "You won't like this, John, but he slept with her too." "What? Bob slept with Zoe? Why did she do that?" I asked. "I'm not sure exactly. This involves changing your prenuptial agreement and her receiving money in the divorce. From the conversation, I realized that she would receive $1 million if you were caught cheating, and Bob for his help sex with her. Bastard. Was Bob trying to set me up to sleep with Zoe? He'll pay for it. Thanks, Joe. Talk to you later." Now my day was ruined. I've encountered this kind of thing before, but it was too personal. How can I take revenge on all three? Greg came down and noticed that I was upset. "What happened, John? Can I help you?" Greg asked. "No, personal problems. Have breakfast and I'll drink a few more cups of coffee. I have no time for talking." After breakfast, we headed home. Greg drove the car and I developed a plan for revenge. In my grandfather's time, all three would have been killed. The father would probably use torture. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to get the truth from all three of them before deciding their fate. This is going to be a damn bad day. I met up with Joe as soon as I got back to town. We met at the club and went to the office to talk. He had our notes and we quickly flipped through them, listening to conversations and sex scenes. Joe gave me my phone back and told me that the call Bob made before I left for New York was to my apartment. He made an appointment with Zoe. After listening to the tapes, I called Bob and told him I needed to meet him at the club. I wanted to hear from him why he slept with my wife. I met Bob at the bar, sitting with Joe. I invited him to the office and asked Joe to come with us. "What happened, John? How was your trip to New York?" asked Bob. I didn't answer him. First, I turned on the recording where we heard his conversation with Zoe, in which he said that he would come soon. Then I stared at Bob without saying a word. "I can explain this call," Bob said. "I'm sure you can, and you'll have a chance to speak." I then played a recording of him telling Zoe to take off her clothes because he was going to have sex with her again. We listened to his words on the recording. "Look, I'm doing you a big favor by getting you this $1,000,000. All it costs you is a few sex sessions. I'm taking a risk too, helping you. If John finds out about any of this, he will kill me." The recording continued for the next 15 minutes with Bob having sex with Zoe. Bob sat in his chair, head down, listening to the recording. Finally, I stopped the recording and looked at Bob very seriously. "Okay, you want to talk, so talk. Why did you sleep with my wife? What is this $1,000,000 you're giving her?" I asked. Bob faltered and half cried. "Don't kill me, John. Please don't kill me. Give me the damn answers, and I mean now. If I think you're lying, I'll kill you right now, so speak up." Bob spoke in a trembling voice. "It all started a couple of months ago. I saw Zoe with this young guy." "What's his name?" I asked sharply. Kent McCarthy. I saw them kissing in a restaurant where I was. Zoe came up to me and begged me not to tell you. She was going to ask you for a divorce when she found the courage. Then I did something really stupid. You know how much I've always loved Zoe, even before you two got married. I told her that she wouldn't get anything in the divorce because of the prenuptial agreement. I told her I could change the prenuptial agreement and get her $1,000,000. All she has to do is get a photo of you having sex with another woman. So you hired this Kent guy to follow me around until he got a photo of me having sex with some chick. No, I didn't hire him. Zoe said her boyfriend was a military policeman in the army and now works as a private investigator. He would do it for free. I had nothing to do with him following you. It's all Zoe. But you knew about it. My wife was going to divorce me, and you didn't even tell me about it. She was watching me, and you knew, but you didn't tell me. All this just to have sex with her. What the hell is with the prenuptial agreement? I checked, and there is no clause that if I cheat, she will get something. I made it up. I took my copy of the contract and changed it to say that if you were caught cheating and she filed for divorce because of it, she would get $1,000,000. I showed her my fake copy. I didn't take her to court. Did you submit a copy to the court? No, of course not. I showed her the fake copy. It wouldn't be legal without your signature and notarization. I swear I just really wanted her." He was crying now. "Please don't kill me, John. We've been friends for many years. I've been your lawyer for years. I did all your legal work. I thought that when she filed for divorce and realized that she would not get anything, she would be too ashamed and scared to mention me. One thing I didn't mention about Bob, he was the district attorney for our county. He did some legal work on the side for me. I was one of his main clients. That's my problem, Bob. You lied to me. You hid important information from me and had sex with my wife. I don't know how many times, and you want to be forgiven." Bob was crying. I just remained silent while he begged me not to kill him. What's strange is that since I took over the company, I haven't killed anyone. I sent several to the hospital, but I didn't kill them. People seem to remember the days of my father and grandfather. This would be much more difficult to pull off today. I'll tell you what, Bob. I'll let you go for now. I'll check your story, but if I find out you've gotten involved with Zoe or her bastard friend, you'll be shot on sight. Now get out of my club. I don't want to see your sorry ass here anymore." Bob stood up and hurried to the door. He was even too scared to thank me. Joe looked at me. "Are you going to let him go?" "For now, yes. We know where he lives and works. Besides, we need to talk to this Kent guy, and of course I need to talk to Zoe. I decided that I needed a couple of days before I showed Zoe the evidence that Joe and I had found. When I got home, she seemed a little nervous, but greeted me with a kiss. We went to the bedroom, and I started having sex with her. She just smiled and said I must be really excited. I really wondered how she could love this Kent and have sex with me like there was no tomorrow. I've been with a lot of women, and I knew she wasn't faking it. After sex, I was too tired to go out and eat. We ordered Chinese takeout, and she told me about her concert and how she went out to dinner with some of the band members after it. She didn't know that I knew better and that she had spent the night with Kent. I knew she must have been concerned about the phones not being bugged, but she couldn't ask me about it. I liked that she would wonder what exactly I might know. I never discussed business with her, but I told her that the trip to New York went well and we entered into new partnerships. After taking a shower, I was ready for bed. She saw me take the pill and knew we were in for another round. The whole time I thought about what Kent would think if he knew she liked to have sex with me and even Bob. She really surprised me by being such a woman of easy virtue. She deceived me well. On Monday, I went to court and checked a copy of my prenuptial agreement. Bob told the truth, and if Zoe and I divorced, she would have left the marriage with what she brought into it, a few $1,000s in a savings account. She would also keep the clothes and gifts I gave her. Knowing this, I decided it was time to end this marriage. I went to see a judge friend who often visited the club. I told him that my wife married me under false pretenses and asked for his opinion. He told me that I could file for an annulment if I had proof. He could have granted the annulment, and the marriage could have ended almost immediately if she had not resisted. I asked him if it would be enough if she admitted that she married me just to stay in the US and become a citizen. The judge was a member of the club and saw Zoe. John, if she admits that she only married you to avoid being deported, that would be reason enough for an annulment. You realize you can't make her say it. She must admit it voluntarily. The judge knew about my family's past and really tried to protect me. He was probably worried about what I might do. Well, it was time to talk to Kent. I can't believe he came to the club. Hasn't he realized yet that I've reached out to him? I called Joe, and when he arrived, I asked him to invite Kent to the office. When they came in, I told Kent to sit down. "I'm not afraid of you," Kent remarked. "Don't be such a fool. Sit on this chair and tell me what the hell is going on between you and my wife," I replied. "People saw me coming into your office. If I don't come out the same as I walked in, people will ask questions," Kent said. "What is wrong with you? I can shoot your sorry ass, take you out the back door, and you'll never be seen again. The only chance you have to stay alive is to tell me what's going on between you and Zoe. Believe me, this is your last chance. I won't think twice about torturing you and then burying you." He tried to get up and Joe hit him. "Now, Mr. McCarthy, tell me everything you know about my marriage. If you don't tell me, I'll let you watch me torture and kill your girlfriend. The choice is yours." He was already nervous. I think that bastard really cared about Zoe. "Please don't touch her. Do what you want with me, but don't hurt her. Tell me everything you know, and maybe I'll just divorce her and let you both go. Now tell me everything. How can I be sure that you won't kill us after I tell you everything?" "You can't, but it's your only option." Damn, that guy was a tough nut to crack. He started talking. "I met Zoe when I served in Kuwait. It was love at first sight. You probably know that her parents were killed. She applied for a visa to go to college here. I had almost a year of service left before I returned. I missed her when she left, but I knew it was best for her. I promised that I would find her when I returned. I found her in college when I came on vacation. We spent time together when we could, but I was sent back to the second tour of duty. She said she would be waiting for me. God, I didn't want to leave, but she was in college and I was still serving. When I found her a couple of months ago, she said she got married. I was really upset, but she said she still loved me. The only reason she got married was to stay in the US. She said she would divorce as soon as she received citizenship. I got a private detective's license and worked for myself, doing small assignments. I joined a fitness club to be close to Zoe. I love her so much. After she received her citizenship, I asked when she was going to get a divorce. She said she talked to a lawyer named Bob, and he told her that if she could prove that you were cheating on her, she would get $1 million through divorce. I told her I didn't need the money, I just wanted to be with her, but she said it wouldn't last. That's when I told her I'll keep an eye on you and maybe find the evidence she needs. So what did you find? How much evidence have you collected? I asked. You know I didn't find anything. I know you found the bug and sent me on a futile journey. I also know that you removed bugs from your phones. How do you know? I'm not here to answer your fucking questions. I have ways of finding out a lot of things, like the fact that you slept with my wife last Friday. Kent looked surprised. So this is the moment your friend will kill me? Asked Kent. You've seen too many old movies. In fact, I'm going to let you go. I know where you live and work. I'm going home to talk to Zoe. Don't you dare touch her, or I'll. You won't do anything. So shut up with all this, or you'll piss me off. If Zoe tells me the truth, and that she loves you, I might let her go. Of course, she will have nothing but the clothes on her back. I can also ask her for a favor or two. What favors? Asked Kent. None of your fucking business, but maybe you can see her then. If I find out that you have contacted her before I talk to her, I promise her life will end. Understood? You won't touch. I said, do you understand? Yes, when can I talk to her? I'll let her call you if she wants after I talk to her. If you contact her before then, you will be responsible for the consequences. Joe, uncuff him and let him go. He has a lot to think about. Kent left the office. Joe asked me if I was doing the right thing by letting him go. He knows Zoe's life could be in his hands. I think he'll at least wait a few days to see what happens. I have to go home and talk to Zoe. I'll call you tomorrow and let you know what happens next. Now everything had to come to an end. I headed home to deal with my cheating wife and hear her side of the story, and then I had to decide how to handle the whole thing. After all, I was sort of the head of the family, and that's quite different from being an ordinary person. No offense, Joe. I must make decisions that uphold the family's reputation and do not lose the respect necessary to maintain my position. When I arrived home, Zoe was already there. I asked her why she came so early. She usually stays at the gym longer. I thought that her lover Kent was not there, and that was bothering her. She said she didn't want to exercise and came home early. Zoe, we need to talk. Sit down in the living room, and I'll be right back. She looked very nervous now as she walked into the living room. I returned to the living room and brought my previous recordings and the new ones recorded today. What is this? Zoe asked. Zoe, I discovered that someone entered our apartment and installed 2 bugs on our phones. Before removing them, I took the trouble to install my own listening devices in the house and near the telephones to find out who broke into our apartment. Zoe looked scared. Is there something you want to tell me before we listen to these tapes together? She just sat there, staring at the floor. For your information, these bugs that I installed are voice-activated and pick up any sounds that occur in the rooms where they are installed. I put one in my office, one in the kitchen near the phone bug, and one in our bedroom. Zoe still didn't say anything as I inserted today's entry. I rewound it until I heard voices. It was Zoe who was calling on the phone. Kent, where are you? I just came from the gym and you weren't there. I tried to call you on your mobile and left you messages. Please call me, I'm worried. Zoe was crying now. She left the following message for Bob on his office phone. Bob, you didn't come back to me. I did what you asked. I need a copy of the marriage contract. I'm worried that John knows something. Please contact me as soon as possible. So, Zoe, do you want to tell me what this all means? If you want, I can play you recordings from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. She knew from the tone of my voice that I probably knew everything. I think she was wondering if I had footage of her having sex with Bob and Kent on our bed. Before she started talking, I told her that she should know that the sex we had on Saturday was also recorded. "You didn't hurt Kent, did you?" were her first words. I laughed. "You married me and then started sleeping with someone else, and the first thing you ask is about Kent. I might kill him to teach you a lesson. Please don't touch John. I really love him. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I should have told you the truth from the beginning, but I was sure you wouldn't marry me and I would have been sent back to Kuwait. But then you decided to blackmail me for $1 million. I want to hear the whole story from the beginning, and if I find out you're lying, your boyfriend is dead. This is not a threat, it will be a fact." Zoe was still a pretty smart woman, and she saw that I had all the notes. It doesn't take a surgeon to know what I know. Zoe began telling me about her life in Kuwait. "I know about your past. I know that Kent was your boyfriend in Kuwait where you met him. I want to know what happened when he found you here in our beautiful city." She told me everything. They had sex at the club almost every time they were both there. Kent told me the truth. He wanted her to tell me everything and forget about the money, but when Bob suggested it, she became greedy. Her story was almost exactly the same as Kent's. They really loved each other, but Zoya had rather free morals. Perhaps this is something she learned from childhood. She had the looks, the brains, and the ability to get what she wanted, usually with her body. She told me that the only men she had sex with after she met me were me, Kent, and Bob twice. She also mentioned that Kent didn't know that she was paying Bob for his legal services with sex. "What now, John? I told you everything. Are you going to kill Kent and me, or can we negotiate to save our lives?" asked a very depressed Zoe. "I know I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. Please find a way for me to make it up to you. I'll do whatever you ask. Just let Kent and me go. If not me, then at least Kent." I told her that I had a way for her to make amends to me, but if she didn't follow through with it, she would never see Kent again. "Anything, John. I'll do anything to save Kent. Tomorrow you and I will go to the same judge, my friend. We are annulling our marriage. It will be as if it never existed. You must tell the judge in your own words that you married me under false pretenses and that you did it to stay in this country. I will not charge you, and you are already a citizen, so you will be free." "Oh, John, I promise to tell him the truth. I'll say whatever you want." This is the first part of our verbal contract. The second part is compensation for what you did to me. "What should I do, John?" "I'm throwing a private party on Saturday. You will be one of the girls working at the party. These guests are my special clients, and they get pretty much everything they want at the party. You will do whatever they ask. Other girls will get paid, and you will do it for free. If you get a tip, you can keep it, except for my 20%. I know that many of these men have been wanting to sleep with you since the first time they saw you dance. I expect you to satisfy my clients with a smile on your face. Just so you know, you won't be hurt. You will have sex most of the night, but I never let anyone abuse my girls. You will be given the same respect. If you do this, I'll let you and Kent go. You will take nothing but your personal belongings, and I want you to leave the state the next day." She knew I was serious, and her body would get more sex in one night than it usually would in a month, but she didn't have much of a choice. She used her body to get to where she is now, and now she will have to use it to free herself from me. "Can I call Kent and tell him about the cancellation? I don't want him to know about the party, but I'll tell him I have to work at the club on Saturday, and we can leave on Sunday." "Here is the phone. Call him and tell him what you want. Also tell him that if he sees or calls you before Sunday, all bets are off. Do you know what it means?" I went to the kitchen and got myself a beer. I heard Zoe talking to Kent. I could only hear her side of the conversation, and she was almost whispering. "Yes, he told me to call you. Baby, I love you too. He said if I did what he asked, he would let us both go. We will go to his friend the judge tomorrow and have our marriage annulled. I have no choice but trust him. I have to work for him at the club on Saturday, and he said we can leave on Sunday. Kent, I have to. This is the only way he will annul the marriage and let us go. One more thing. He said not to contact me until Sunday or all bets are off. Kent, if he was going to kill us or cause us physical harm, he would have already done it. I better hang up now. I love you, Kent, and by Sunday we'll be together forever. She hung up and cried. John, you'll actually let us go if I do what you ask, won't you? Unless you deceive me in some way or your boyfriend interferes, I will keep my word. By the way, until tomorrow you are still my wife, and I expect a lot of sex tonight. Do not disappoint me. The next day we were much more serious. She heard me calling Joe and asking him to keep an eye on Kent. I wanted her to know that this was not a game. He will do what I asked, John. Please don't touch him, Zoe begged. If he does what he's told, there won't be any problems. I even told Joe to tell your boyfriend that he's being followed. The comparison between Joe and Kent was like that between a professional and an amateur. No one knew Joe better than I did, and it was better not to mess with him. To say Zoe was nervous would be an understatement. I presented her to the judge, and he asked me to wait outside his office while he talked to Zoe. About half an hour later, the judge called me back into his office. He said that after talking with Zoe, he was signing the annulment. He told me in front of Zoe that I had the legal right to press charges. I said I just want to get this over with. He said the documents would be delivered to the court the same day and the revocation would take effect within 24 hours. When we left the court, Zoe thanked me. It's not over yet. You have one more night to sleep with me, and then there's a party on Saturday. I won't participate, but I will be there. I stopped at the Red Lobster restaurant. What are you doing? Zoe asked. You're still my wife for 24 hours, and we need to eat, I replied. This brought a faint smile from Zoe. I stopped at the mall and bought a few extra suitcases for Zoe. She asked why I was so kind to her after what she did. I don't know. I really don't know. My grandfather and father would have killed both of you without blinking an eye. Maybe I had feelings for you. Maybe what you did isn't bad enough to kill for. Or maybe I'm just trying to keep my word, and for now you do everything I ask. When we got home, I told her that I had things to do. I didn't want her to go anywhere or talk to anyone but me. I let her know that my bugs were still installed, and she better not try to look for them. I left and minded my own business. I stopped by the club and told Brad about a special party for Saturday. I gave him instructions on what kind of party this would be. We did them maybe 3 times a year. Entrance to them cost $1,000 per person. These were mostly invited guests. Almost always at least 50 men came. When we heard that Zoe would be one of the girls, we were expecting at least 75 people or more. Brad informed everyone that the marriage between Zoe and I was annulled. I asked Brad to call and make sure we had enough girls available for the party. When I returned later, he had 25 women ready to take part. Each of them received $1,000 and any tips on the side. They knew they had to give me 20% of the tip. Joe called me. He said Ken approached him and asked if he could leave before Saturday. He had to keep an eye on a man cheating on his wife. How ironic. I told Joe to let him go, but we wanted him here on Saturday. Joe returned to the club and asked me why everyone got off so easily. It's not as simple as it seems. We'll make a ton of money using Zoe on Saturday with her consent. She doesn't know we're going to chain Kent to a chair behind a two-way mirror. He will see his beloved having sex with strangers. What about Bob? He must not go unpunished. It turns out that he just got off like that. That's about to change. I wanted to deal with our other problems before dealing with Bob. Here's footage of Bob sleeping with Zoe. He says to them how much he hates his wife and calls her a pig. He even says he wishes she were dead. I want you to edit the notes. Remove any mention of Zoe or my name and give them to his wife, Flo. Let him try to explain himself. He knows he shouldn't mess with us. Let's see what happens. She can make his life miserable. Zoe spent the day packing her things. She bought a lot of clothes in the short time we were married. She had 5 suitcases and 4 boxes of clothes. I asked Joe to hire a mover to take her things to Kent's apartment since he was not home. She had one suitcase left for the things she would need before Saturday. When we had sex the last night, I knew I would miss her. She was a great lover. I probably shouldn't have married her and just had sex with her on the side. But at that time, we were worried about her visa. We had sex again that night, and I think she did her best. It seemed like deep down she wanted me to miss her. She was one hot, exotic woman. I will never understand how she could sleep with me like that and still love someone else, in this case, Kent. Saturday came, and I took her to the club. She met up with all the other women upstairs in the party room. There were 30 women in total. The party started at 9. If any woman wanted to leave after midnight, she was allowed to leave. Anyone who left before midnight lost their $1,000. Zoe had to stay because of our agreement. Brad said the men were starting to gather. More than 100 men said they would come after they heard Zoe would be participating. I guess it's like having sex with a celebrity. She was my wife, and some men probably felt it was like getting a woman they couldn't touch. Brad said Bob called him, but he told him he was no longer a member of the club. Damn, he got off easy by still being alive. We had stimulants for men who wanted them. It was for men and women. A couple of women told Zoe that she should accept them. By midnight, she'll be glad she accepted. The party started with some women dancing and others serving the gentlemen. I became convinced that Zoe was one of the dancers. The men wanted to see her belly dance. I must say she was good. Joe came with Kent. He took him away into a room with a two-way mirror. He told him that if he kept quiet, he would be allowed to watch the show. If he starts to cause problems, he will be handcuffed. We also had a few bouncers in the same room to make sure no one was taking advantage of the girls. When he saw Zoe on stage, he asked to leave. The bouncers told him no and decided it was best to chain him up. They felt that he would not accept it calmly when his woman would have sex with anyone. Zoe was a little cold at first, but I reminded her of our agreement. She had to look happy to be there. After taking sexual stimulants, Zoe looked like she was enjoying herself. I watched, and it didn't bring me any pleasure. The arrangement of the party room was as follows. In the center, there was a main room where the main party took place. There was a corridor around it along the entire perimeter. Along the hallway were booths with beds and curtains for some privacy. Each booth had a two-way mirror. This way, the bouncers could see all the action without disturbing the guests. Kent was placed next to the booth Zoe was in. He spent the whole night watching him have sex with anyone. The worst part was that she seemed to enjoy it. I approached Kent during a party and said, "Now you know what it's like to know that your wife or girlfriend is enjoying sex with another man. This is what you did to me. Revenge is hell, isn't it? When this party is over, I'll let you take Zoe with you. I never want to see you both again. Be glad you're not in a body bag." She kept her side of the deal. At the moment, she has received more $4,000 in tips. She will leave with a good sum. One reason I let you go instead of killing you is because you're a veteran. I don't know if you know this, but Joe and I are veterans too. That's part of the reason why your life was saved. Kent's head just hung. The party practically ended at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can't tell you how many times Zoe had sex, but she looked pretty wrecked. We had showers for the girls to get cleaned up. Some asked to stay the night because they were very tired. A couple of girls helped Zoe wash and dress. They took her out into the corridor, and this was the first time she knew that Kent had seen everything. She started to cry, but Kent hugged her. One of the bouncers handed her an envelope. It contained $5,000. Her tip was shared for one night. Zoe and Kent were taken to their car, and one of the bouncers told them I never wanted to see either of them again. Brad paid the girls who wanted to go home. Some left with the gentlemen. I asked the bouncers to call a taxi for everyone heading home. I didn't want any accidents associated with the club. They could always pick up their cars in the morning. Joe entered and sat down. "It was an unforgettable night, John. The club made more money than any other party." "I don't know if I made the right decision, Joe. They set me up, but I think we got back at them. This is something they will live with for the rest of their lives. The funny thing is that I really believe that they love each other. Now we need to deal with Bob. Do you have notes ready for Flo? Yes, I'll give them to her tomorrow morning while Bob is playing golf. Good night, John. I'll go home and get some sleep. I was tired and had no one to go home to, so I just slept in the office. In my heart of hearts, I hoped that Zoe and Kent would be able to make things work. The only woman I ever loved deeply and let go of was my second wife, Irene. Why am I thinking about her now? Morning came too early. I asked the chef to prepare breakfast for all the girls and bouncers who were staying the night. The cleaning crew had already started cleaning the party room. The girls looked tired, but were grateful for the breakfast and coffee. After the meal, I paid each girl $1,000 and her share of the tip. They all made a lot of money in one night's work. None of them earned as much as Zoe, but that was to be expected. We were closed on Sundays, so the girls who worked for me had the whole day to relax. Some of the temporary workers Brad brought in said they would like to work at the club if there was a vacancy. We treated our employees really well. I spent the day at the club sorting out accounting and paperwork. Joe came at noon and said he gave the notes to Flo. He said he was wearing a beard, glasses, and a hat. Flo wouldn't be able to recognize him. John, she's not such a bad woman. She may not be skinny, but she is far from fat. What the hell is wrong with Bob? She looks damn good. What? Do you like Flo? I asked. No, I'm just saying, for a woman of 40, she looks pretty good. I'm already tired of all these young girls. Sure, they're great for sex, but we don't have much in common. But Flo is the kind of woman I would like to go on a date with. Joe laughed after he realized what he had said. Joe and I were sitting in the club watching football when the phone rang. I wondered why someone was calling on a Sunday, but I picked up anyway. It was a semi-hysterical woman. John, I killed him. I took his gun and shot him 6 times. What should I do? Please help me. It took a while, but I finally recognized the voice. It was Flo. Flo, what have you done? Did you shoot Bob? Calm down and tell me what happened. Some man with a beard and glasses handed me the recordings and said that I needed to listen to them. I did it, and Bob cheated on me. He had sex with this woman and told her he wanted me to die. He called me a pig and an old bitch. So what happened? I asked him about it when he got back from golf, and he laughed and said it was all true. I couldn't stand it. He lies here dead on a Persian rug. Can you help me, John? I don't want to go to jail. Calm down, Flo. What were your plans for today? My sister Sue and I were going to go to the movies, but now I'm going to jail for killing that bastard. First of all, Flo, you need to calm down. I will help you, but you must regain your sanity. You can do it. Yes, but I have Bob's dead body on my floor. Should I call the police? No, don't call anyone. I want you to go to your sister and go to the cinema. Tell your sister that Bob remains home because the carpet cleaners are coming to see you today. I don't understand, Flo replied. Flo, this will cost you a lot of money. Do you have $10,000 in cash at home? Yes, in the safe. I want you to take $10,000, put it in a large envelope, and put it on the end table. Then write a check for $250. Make it in the name of Ray's carpet cleaning. Later, I will need $1,000 for a new Persian rug, but more on that later. Are you coming here, John? Asked Flo. No, I can't be seen there. I'll send a cleanup team. Money is their payment. The receipt is for the actual carpet cleaning. Whatever you do, don't tell anyone. Go to the cinema with your sister. Stay in the cinema for at least 6 hours. You can do it. Yes, but what should I say about Bob? She moaned. We'll discuss this later. As far as you know, he returned from golf and was at home when the carpet cleaners arrived. You understood. You must stick to this version. Your life depends on it. I'm starting to calm down, John. Thank you. I'll call you as soon as I get home in 6 hours. Round Dansesho and call me on your cell phone. Stop and buy one of those burner phones so that your calls cannot be tracked. Thanks, John, she said before hanging up. What the hell happened? Joe asked. Bob came back from golf, and he and Flo got into an argument, and she killed him. Damn it, my woman. Do you want me to do this, John? Certainly. Contact Ray's carpet cleaning and explain the situation. Their money's on the extreme table. Make sure they remove the Persian rug and clean up all traces of blood from the floor. Let them stop by my relative's store and pick up a used Persian rug for replacement. Make sure it's used and they clean it. Joe made the calls and sorted everything out. When Flo called me after she got home, she said everything looked great, and even the carpet that was replaced was similar to her old one. She wanted to know what to do next. I gave her Joe's number and told her he would be handling the case from now on. I spoke with Joe after his meeting with Flo. He knew he shouldn't go to her house, so he met her at a small cafe 30 miles away. That's what he told her. Flo, from now on you have to act like you're worried about your husband missing. I want you to call the police and tell them that you went to the movies with your sister and had dinner like you planned. Stick to the truth as much as possible. It's easier to remember that way. Tell them your husband came back from golf and was angry that he had to stay home for the carpet cleaners. They will take note of this. You can tell them you left a check for Bob to give to the cleaners. After that, you don't know anything, and we won't tell you anything. The less you know, the better. The police will say that you cannot file a missing persons report within 24 hours. Make sure you call them as soon as 24 hours have passed. You should seem concerned about his whereabouts. Eventually, his body will be found, and you will become a suspect. Married couples are always the first to be suspected. You have an airtight alibi. Don't ruin it. Tell them everything you know about his business connections. You can even mention that you thought he might be cheating, but you have no proof of it. Give me the notes that the stranger gave you, and I will destroy them. From now on, we should have no contact except through the burner phone you bought. You will be watched after your body is found. John told me that you have a daughter from a previous marriage. Ask her to come and stay with you, but don't tell her anything. Invite your sister to be with you. You don't want to be alone. If the neighbors are questioned, which they will probably confirm that they saw Bob returning from golf and the carpet cleaner's van. What about Bob's car? Won't they ask about her? Asked Flo. Yes, they will ask, but you weren't there when Bob drove off in it, so you don't know. We won't tell you anything, because the less you know, the better. This case will remain unsolved. It's just going to be hard for the first couple of months. After all, he was the district attorney. Will we see each other again? You helped me so much, Flo said in a gentle voice. I hope so, but it won't be soon. I'm always ready to talk to you. You have my number, but use a burner phone. Flo did everything Joe asked. She called the police and reported Bob missing. She called back 24 hours later, and they sent an officer to her home to take her statement. Flo kept Joe informed of everything that was happening. She told police she went to the movies with her sister, which was confirmed. They also checked with neighbors who said they were out most of the day, but when they returned, they saw a carpet cleaner's van in the driveway. Flo provided the check she wrote for carpet cleaning. She mentioned that it cost more to clean the carpets on a Sunday, but that was the only day anyone was home. Flo called the police every day, as Joe advised. 3 days later, Flo said the police came to her home and said they had found Bob's body. It was in his car at the mine dumps, and he was shot several times. They didn't have any leads. She cried and called for her daughter to be with her in the days following the discovery of Bob's body. They were planning a funeral, which was attended by several people from our club. We all expressed our condolences and told Flo the usual, if you need anything, let me know. The police asked to speak to me. I told them I hadn't seen Bob in about a week. They said they checked his phone records and found that he called my club from his home on the Saturday he disappeared. I said we were having a party, and he said he was going to come, but never showed up. I also mentioned that Flo called me on Sunday and asked if I had seen Bob. I told her I didn't see it. I reminded the police that Bob was the district attorney and he had enemies. I didn't know their names, but this job always comes with risks. After the funeral, Flo said they wanted to see the house. Joe advised Flo to cooperate with the police and not resist their actions. She was supposed to portray a grieving widow who wants the culprits to be punished. A month passed, and the police told her that they had no leads and that the investigation had reached a dead end. Flo was a teacher and returned to work after a short holiday. She told police it distracted her from thinking about home and that she needed to start a new life without her husband. Joe told me that she called him almost every day. He said he was looking forward to their conversations. He told her he wouldn't be able to see her for at least another month, maybe longer. The police were probably still watching her. She spent more time with her sister and even spent some weekends with her daughter and her husband. She had a granddaughter with whom she loved to spend time. They lived 40 miles away in another city. I just minded my own business and tried to stay out of the situation, except for the updates Joe gave me. I could see him falling in love with Flo in his own way. As for me, my sex life consisted of occasionally having sex with girls from the club. I agree with Joe that having a mature woman around would be more enjoyable. Someone with whom you have common interests and who you like. When Joe talked about Flo, it made me remember all the things I had in common with Irene. 3 months passed, and the police told Flo that they were no closer to catching the killer. She decided to go to a birthday party for one of her school colleagues. It was Joe's idea. He wanted to start dating her, but decided it would be better if she went on a couple of dates with other men first. He was sure the police would check on her first couple of dates. She went to a birthday party for one of the teachers at school. She danced with several men. Several of them were divorced, and she went on a couple of dates with them. It was mostly dinner and a movie. She told Joe that she kissed them goodbye even though they wanted more, but she wouldn't allow it. One day, she called me at my office using her burner phone. "John, I think you know that I'm friends with Joe. He tells me that you two are closer than brothers. This is true." "Yes, it is. In fact, if anything happens to me, he will take over my business. I trust him that much." "What's the matter, Flo?" "I would like to go on a date with him and was wondering if you could arrange it. We agreed that we wanted to see each other, but we have different social circles and we needed some way to meet." I laughed. "Flo, call your sister and invite her to dinner at Olive Garden tomorrow. I think I'll go there too and have lunch with Joe and introduce you to him. Let's go at noon. Saturday afternoon should not be too crowded. By the way, don't tell Joe. I want to surprise him. Oh, when you see us, invite us to sit with you." I called Joe and invited him to lunch. I told him I wanted to introduce him to someone. He asked if he had to be in disguise, and I said no, just be yourself. "John, I hope it's not a woman. You know how I feel about blind dates." "This is not a blind date, but this is a woman who asked me to introduce her to you. That's all I'll say. See you tomorrow." Joe picked me up, and we headed to Olive Garden. I smiled as we pulled into the parking lot. "Okay, is this some kind of joke, John?" Joe asked. "No, this is serious. A woman I know called me and asked me to introduce her to you. She didn't know any other way to approach you. I'm not lying, Joe. I'm being honest." I laughed again as we got out of the car. "It's not like you to arrange something like that, John. What's the catch?" "No trick. Just enjoy your lunch. No obligations, just friends having lunch together." We walked in and were waiting to be seated, and I saw Flo and her sister. Joe hasn't noticed her yet. "Here she is. Joe, let me introduce you to my friend. She recently lost her husband." Joe looked and saw Flo. I spoke first. I knew Sister Flo, and of course, I saw her at the funeral. "Flo, good to see you out and about." I said hello to Sue and then introduced Joe to Sue and Flo. "It's good to see you again, Flo. I'm not sure if you remember me from your husband's funeral. Please accept my sincere condolences," Joe said. "We better get back in line to be seated. It was nice to see you again, Flo, and of course, Sue, always nice to see you," I said. "John, why don't you and your friend join us? I'm sure she doesn't mind, right, Sue?" Flo answered. It would be nice to have male company. Of course I don't mind, Sue replied. I have known Sue and her husband for a long time. They were a happy couple with 2 teenagers. We were friends, but we didn't move in the same circles. I waved to the waitress and told her that we were joining the ladies and that the entire bill would be on me. The waitress set out cutlery for Joe and me. Without hesitation, Joe sat next to Flo and I sat next to Sue. You don't have to pay for our lunch, Sue said. I insist, we are all friends here, I replied. Not long later, we were all chatting about old times and Flo and Joe were acting like new friends. We enjoyed a great lunch and I paid the bill. Flo and Sue thanked me. Joe looked at Flo and said, It was really nice meeting you again. I'm not sure if this would be too hasty, but I'd like to see you again. Sue took a napkin, wrote her phone number on it, and said, That would be great. I'm trying to get my life back on track. If you are John's friend, then you are my friend. We walked the ladies to their car and then headed to Joe's car. Joe thanked me all the way home. He knew he needed a way to start a relationship with Flo, and I made it happen for him. On Sunday, I decided to visit my daughter and, of course, Irene, my ex-wife. I knocked on the door and Sammy opened it. I've always loved boyish names for girls, so Irene decided to name our daughter Samantha. I call her either Sam or Sammy. Dad, what are you doing here? Sam said with a smile. I was just stopping by to visit my 2 favorite ladies and was wondering if you'd like to have dinner and maybe even a movie. Come in, Dad. Mom is in the kitchen. I'll tell her you're here. I sat down and Irene came into the room. Damn it, why did I let her go? I knew that I still had strong feelings for her. John, you look good. Sammy said you want to take us somewhere for dinner. What's happened? Asked Irene. Do you want the truth? You won't believe it, but I miss you too. You know, my last marriage was annulled. Since then, I spend a lot of time alone and think a lot. I would like to know if I can stop by sometimes and maybe we could go somewhere together. Irene was the woman who could read my thoughts. I think it's because we had a lot in common. I don't want to say that we think alike because I hope she doesn't think like me. Damn, you're serious, aren't you? What's the problem, John? You seem different. I think I'm finally growing up. I miss having a woman with whom I can have meaningful conversations, listen to music and dance to old tunes. Sure, we can have dinner and Sam will choose a movie. There were a few she wanted to see, but we didn't have time. There was a lot of work at the bakery. I wanted to talk to you about hiring a few more people so Sammy and I can have more time to relax. Irene, I know I'm a partner, but you don't need my permission to hire anyone or make changes. The reason I stayed as a partner was to have a reason to see you. I know I can see Sammy, but I want to see you sometimes too. Wow, you're clearly depressed, Irene said. No, I feel as good as ever. I just like being around someone I love. It's just been too long. So let's find a good restaurant. Dad, can we try the new Japanese place that just opened? They prepare the food right at the table. After dinner, we went to the cinema. I sat next to Irene, and we all ate a big bowl of popcorn together. Irene was in the middle and holding him. I must say I had a wonderful time. When we got home, Irene asked me if we could discuss a little business. She said we needed to replace one of the furnaces, and she would like to buy a larger one. I just smiled. Irene, buy everything you need. If the business doesn't have the money to buy, then call me. John, you haven't collected your checks for the last 3 months. Bob used to take them, but after he died, no one came for them. Honey, keep them and use them to buy new stoves and hire new employees. Just keep me updated on how the business is going. By the way, would you like to have a barbecue next week? I'll fry. Of course, John, come around noon. You can meet Sammy's new boyfriend. You'll like him. He's a baker, and Sammy wants us to hire him, so you'll have a chance to make a management decision. Irene smiled after she said that. Sammy had a lot of boyfriends, but this one seemed serious. A year has passed since Bob's death. Joe and Flo are getting married next month. Irene will be my date at the wedding. I will be the best man. Police said Bob's murder is now a cold case file. They said they had not received any leads as to who might have done it. Sammy got her way and hired her boyfriend, soon to be her husband. They will get married in 6 months. We never heard from Zoe or Kent again. One of the girls in the club heard a rumor that they had moved somewhere out west. For some reason, I hope it works out for them. That leaves me and Irene. She doesn't want to marry me, at least not yet. But I have a standing invitation every Sunday when we gather. Almost every weekend, we find ourselves in bed. There is something special about making love to someone you truly love. Life is very fickle. I try to just live one day at a time. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.